Motherboard compatibility. Minus CPU socket types. Advanced Micro Devices, Inc., AMD. Intel. When building or upgrading a computer, the most critical decision a technician makes is matching the central processing unit to the correct motherboard. You cannot simply buy any processor and plug it into any board because the two major manufacturers, Intel and AMD, use completely different physical designs and socket types. Intel and the Land Grid Array. Intel relies almost exclusively on a physical design known as Land Grid Array, or LGA. In an LGA configuration, the fragile metal pins are located directly inside the motherboard socket, while the bottom of the processor is completely flat and covered in small gold contact pads. This design shifts the risk of physical damage away from the expensive processor and onto the motherboard. If you drop an Intel processor, it will likely survive because there is nothing to bend. But if you drop a tool onto an Intel motherboard, you can easily bend the socket pins and destroy the entire board. Common Intel sockets you will encounter in the field include LGA 1700 and LGA 1200, where the number literally tells you exactly how many microscopic pins are inside that specific socket. AMD and the Pin Grid Array. On the other side of the industry is AMD, which historically used a completely opposite design known as Pin Grid Array, or PGA. In the incredibly popular AM4 socket used for many Ryzen processors, the motherboard socket is just a piece of plastic covered in tiny receiving holes, while all the fragile metal pins are attached directly to the bottom of the processor itself. A technician must be incredibly careful when handling a PGA chip. If you hold it incorrectly or drop it, those tiny pins will bend or snap off, instantly ruining the processor. However, it is vital to know that for their newest generation of processors using the AM5 socket, AMD completely changed their design and transitioned to the same LGA style used by Intel so they could deliver more electrical power to the chip safely. The golden rule of compatibility. The absolute golden rule of system building is that a processor will only fit into a motherboard designed specifically for its exact socket type. You can never put an Intel chip into an AMD motherboard, and you cannot even put a new AMD chip into an older AMD motherboard if the socket versions do not match perfectly. Even if a socket looks similar, the physical notches cut into the sides of the processor will prevent it from dropping into the wrong socket. A technician must always check the motherboard manufacturer's official support list before purchasing parts to guarantee the processor, and the board will physically fit and safely communicate with each other.